She wasn't like any other serial killer. She didn't hide in the shadows. She hunted in daylight, a woman whose story is a tangled web of tragedy and terror. This is the story of Aileen Wuornos, often called the world's most dangerous female serial killer. To understand the monster, you have to understand the making of one. Aileen Carol Pittman was born into a world that seemed determined to break her. Her father was a convicted child molester who took his own life in prison. Her mother abandoned her and her older brother when they were just toddlers. They were left with their grandparents, but home was no safe haven. Her grandfather was a violent alcoholic, and Aileen's childhood was a relentless cycle of abuse and neglect. By the age of 14, she was pregnant, kicked out of her home, and forced to survive on the streets. This wasn't just a difficult childhood. It was a brutal training ground that taught her the world was a hostile place where only the toughest survive. This early trauma forged a deep-seated rage and a profound distrust of men, a resentment that would later explode with deadly consequences. In 1986, Aileen's life took a fateful turn. Wandering into a biker bar in Daytona, Florida, she met Tyria Moore, a motel maid. For Aileen, it was a thunderbolt moment. She fell head over heels, and for the first time she felt a sense of belonging, of love. Tyria became the center of her universe. Aileen promised to take care of her, to provide for her, no matter the cost. This intense, codependent relationship became the anchor in Aileen's chaotic life. To support Tyria, Aileen continued her work as a highway prostitute, but the pressure to provide for the woman she loved was immense. It was this desperation, this need to keep Tyria by her side, that would push her over the edge. The love story, as twisted as it was, became the backdrop for a terrifying killing spree. The year is 1989. The highways of Central Florida are about to become a hunting ground. Aileen's first known victim was Richard Mallory, a 51-year-old electronics store owner. His body was found in a wooded area, shot multiple times. Aileen would later claim he had been exceptionally violent with her and that she killed him in self-defense. Whether that first killing was self-preservation or the unleashing of a lifetime of pent-up rage, we may never truly know. But what is certain is that it opened a floodgate. Over the next year, a string of men, all picked up along the highways, met a similar fate. David Spears, a 43-year-old construction worker. Charles Carskadden, a 40-year-old rodeo worker. Troy Burris, a 50-year-old sausage salesman. Each man was robbed and killed, their bodies discarded on the roadside like trash. Aileen wasn't a stealthy killer. She was brazen, operating in plain sight. She was a woman turning the tables in a dangerous game, but her methods were brutal and final. The media dubbed the unknown perpetrator the damsel of death. Fear gripped the highways as the body count rose. Law enforcement knew they were hunting for a serial killer, but the profile was confusing. The victims were all middle-aged men, a demographic rarely targeted by serial killers, and the idea of a female perpetrator was, at the time, almost unthinkable. The investigation was a massive puzzle. The crucial break came when police connected several of the crimes through physical evidence and witness reports of a woman matching Aileen's description. They found her fingerprints in one victim's car and a pawnshop slip for an item belonging to another victim. The name on that slip led them straight to Aileen Wuornos. But the key to truly cracking the case wide open wasn't Aileen. It was Tyria Moore. Investigators knew about their relationship. They approached Tyria, convincing her that Aileen was the prime suspect and that her own safety depended on her cooperation. In a series of recorded phone calls, a heartbroken and terrified Tyria pleaded with Aileen to turn herself in, to confess, to end the nightmare. It was a calculated and devastating betrayal. For Aileen, hearing the woman she loved working with the police was the final crushing blow. The one person she trusted, the one person she killed for, had turned against her. With nothing left to lose, Aileen was arrested at a biker bar in Port Orange, Florida, on January 9, 1991. The manhunt for the damsel of death was over. What followed was one of the most chilling and fascinating series of confessions in modern criminal history. Aileen didn't just confess, she erupted. In hours of taped interviews, she detailed the killings with a volatile mix of chilling nonchalance, explosive anger, and claims of self-defense. She insisted that every man she killed had either assaulted her or was about to. "I am one who has been abused," she'd rage. "I'm a human being who has a heart and a soul, and I have been wronged." Her story captivated and horrified the public. Was she a cold-blooded predator, or a victim who finally fought back in the only way she knew how? The court saw a predator. She was convicted of the murder of Richard Mallory, and ultimately sentenced to death. She would later plead no contest to the other murders. In the years leading up to her execution, Aileen became a media spectacle. Documentaries were made, and her interviews from death row were surreal. Her mental state seemed to deteriorate. Her claims became more erratic, her rage more performative. She fired her lawyers, claimed the police knew about the killings all along, and insisted her mind was being controlled by radio waves. She seemed to embrace her monster persona, almost reveling in the infamy. In one of her final interviews, she looked straight into the camera, cold and defiant, and said, "I'll be up in heaven, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus. I'm going to come back in a spaceship." On October 9, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection. Her final words were, "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th. Like the movie Big Mothership and all, I'll be back." A bizarre end to a life defined by violence and tragedy. Aileen Wuornos' story is a dark chapter in American crime. A reminder that monsters are not always born. Sometimes they are made, forged in the fires of abuse, neglect, and a world that showed them no mercy. Thank you for watching this deep dive into a very complex and dark story. If you found this interesting, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content. Stay safe out there, and see you next time.